Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. It's significant that the book of Proverbs is so filled with images of women. Women tend to be the imagery that is used the most in the book of Proverbs. You have, of course, wisdom being personified as a woman there at the beginning. Then you also have the woman of harlotry, the immoral woman that Solomon is warning his son against. And then at the end of the book in Proverbs 31, you have the virtuous wife, who is seen as a type of woman that uh, King Lemuel's mother would want him to have. And she emulated very wise characteristics that would have caused him to live a better life had he connected himself to such a woman. And so women have a very prominent role in the book of Proverbs, especially when it comes to the imagery of Proverbs. And certainly this virtuous woman is certainly a woman who has certain characteristics that women could emulate, look up to, and try to duplicate in their own lives. But I would go further to even say that even men as well could use these various characteristics when we think about them in a general way. In Proverbs 31, you have this virtuous woman being one who is trustworthy. Verse 11, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She was an individual that you could trust. The husband could just leave things under her watchful eye and know that she's going to treat him well. He can trust that she's going to do the right thing. And so she's a trustworthy person. And of course, we should all want to be the type of people who are trustworthy. Our God, one of the key characteristics that is brought out about God in Scripture is that he is trustworthy, that he is faithful. And we should be emulating that in our own lives. She has good intentions towards her husband. Verse 12, she does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She had integrity, and she would do good for her husband in all types of circumstances, in all types of situations. And of course, we should have that type of attitude as well towards others, to where we just have good intentions towards people, not evil intentions, not scheming or planning against people, but just being the type of people who intend good for others all the days of our life. She's hardworking as well. This is brought out in verse 19. It says, she stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle. She's a person who just works hard, working hard, making sure that her family is clothed, that they are well supplied. And of course, we should all be hardworking. That's one of the themes in the book of Proverbs, about not being slothful, not being a person who avoids work, but being a hardworking person. And a hardworking person is a wise person because they will see the fruits of their labor and they'll be more prepared for the future. And this virtuous woman emulates that, as we all should. She's generous. Verse 20, she extends her hand to the poor, and she stretches out her hands to the needy. So she's a type of person who is generous towards others, not tight-fisted, not greedy, not holding on to what she has, but very generous. And of course, that's a characteristic that we should all have as believers. Being ready to give, being ready to supply the needs of others, should be something that we should be doing, or is something that we should be doing. She's very prudent. In verse 22, it says, she makes coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. So she's the type of person who is prudent. She does what is right in the appropriate time. Something we should have as well. She's very supportive. In verse 23, her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. So she's the type of person who supported her husband in the position that he had. And as we all know, behind every good man is a good woman. And it seems to be that he sits at the gate and has a place of prominence because of the wise woman that he has supporting him. And we should be supportive of others as well, whether we're male or female. We should be wanting other people to succeed and supporting other people so that they can exceed, especially in connection to the church. When it comes to the gifts that various people have, we should be supporting them in their gifts so that they can flourish all the more in exercising those gifts. She is very strong and dignified. In verse 25, it says, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She's just a person who has an air about her of strength, of dignity. She's the type of person who smiles at the future, knows that she can overcome obstacles, knows that she's prepared in the best way that she can for the future, and therefore has no fear for the future. And once again, that's a characteristic that we should all have. She speaks in a fine way. In verse 26, she opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Again, this is a major theme in the book of Proverbs. The tongue, how to use the tongue, advice about not using the tongue too much, not abusing the tongue, but having fine speech. This virtuous woman spoke in a way that was instructive. She taught, but it was also a teaching of kindness and that sort of thing. And this all led to her being praiseworthy. It talks about in verse 28, her children rise up and bless her, her husband also, and he praises her, saying, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. To be able to have that said about you is a great attestation to the type of character an individual has. And if we have all these characteristics, at least all these characteristics that she has, we'll definitely be living a praiseworthy life. If we're trustworthy, if we always act with good intentions and integrity, if we're hardworking, if we're generous with what we have, if we're prudent, if we're supportive of others, if we are strong and dignified, if our speech is fine, then that will lead to a praiseworthy life. And we will be praised not for superficial things like being good looking or having a lot of money or things like that, but for the good things, the things of substance. That is, because we have great character, and that's something worthy to be praised about. So let's be encouraged to follow the example of this virtuous wife, whether we're male or female. These are some general characteristics that we can implement, and I think that they personify much of what the book of Proverbs talks about in all of its chapters. And so I think we would do well to see this woman as a prime example of how we should live, what type of character we should emulate, and the type of life we should live. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.